when you arrived in Hollywood, who were the big stars that you remember seeing that really made an impression on you?
Oh, well, this was in the wonderful era of Hollywood that exists no more. The era when the 7 major studios all had their list of contract players and stars. Their directors were under contract, the producers and writers. It was like a family in the studio. And at Warner Brothers, there was Jimmy Cagney and Pat O'Brien and Betty Davis, and Wayne Morris had just become a young new star there for Kid Galahad that he'd made. But and Dick Powell and Jack Carson, and well, you can go along with the trying to think of them all at the same time, but you'd eat there in the commissary at lunch and they were all around you and be at your same table with you, and it was a wonderful time. But also you were made to realize you were under contract now. They took me in and sat me down, and it was as if I couldn't hear because they were all talking about me in front of me, and they were trying to decide on a name for me. I'd always used my kid nickname Dutch when I was a sports announcer, Dutch Reagan. And they were talking and talking, and finally I was getting a little uncomfortable, and finally I said to them, because that was a pretty big radio station by then, I said, look, you know, my name's rather well known in a large section of the country. Do you think we just toss it off? And they said, Dutch Reagan? And I said, well, my real name is Ronald Reagan. I'd never used the Ronald. I liked Dutch better. And they said, Ronald Reagan, Ronald. Hey, that's not bad. I got to keep my own name, Ronald Reagan.
I'm puzzled, Mr. President, and it's probably the last time we'll ever be able to ask you the question. Why do you insist that North and Poindexter did nothing wrong when you fired them for diverting funds? They burned and shredded official documents after a government inquiry was underway. They thwarted your power. They usurped your power. They're 2 military men when we have a civilian government. Why do you continue to forgive them?
Well,
everything.
Helen, because when I said doing nothing wrong, this was in countering what I have to say is the total media distortion of the process that was underway. And I can't understand it because I, as you know, the day after that leak revealed the covert operation, I went before the press and told them exactly what the operation was. We were not doing business with the Ayatollah. We were not trading arms for hostages. We had received word by way of a third country, Israel, that a delegation of people at a time when everyone was saying that the Ayatollah was not going to live out the week, and that factions were rising up as to, well, who was going to be the government of Iran. This group was vouched for by, as I say, a third country as responsible citizens who wanted to meet a meeting somehow with representatives of the United States as to how there could be a better relationship between a government of Iran and the United States. And it had to be covert because these people would obviously have been executed if anyone in the government had known that they were doing what they were doing. So these people of ours were there meeting on that setup.